are we beginning to see the power of blessing? And you're going to see why our Filipino culture is like what it is. You see it more now. There. Let's begin again with Matthew 5. So whenever you say a degrading word to your neighbor, or to your son, to your spouse, or to your parents, or to anyone, Jesus is saying, you just curse the person. And you know, Jesus said, it's murder in God's eyes. So if we are a culture of curses, we are a murderous culture in God's eyes. Filipino people have been guilty of murdering the next generations. And what kind of next generation do we see rising up? Sometimes not too promising. Because they have already adopted the negative perspectives and words of their own parents. Okay? And Jesus is saying, that's murder. You have seen that, right? The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. Every time you pronounce a curse on a person, you're killing the person. You're crippling his destiny. You're disempowering him. Yes. So we're saying is that the word, when you keep repeating it to a person, unconsciously begins to affect that person, even if it's done jokingly. Kaya sabi ni Jesus careless words will be judged on the day of judgment. He says. Kasi it's a label. Pag sana bruha ka, bruha. Oh, bruha ka talaga. Yan, oh. Pero pabiro yun, ha?
Pabiro yun.
Oo.
Labing-labing yun.
Pero at the back of the person receives that, it's degrading for her to be called a bruha, you know. Pero out of fun, okay lang. Kasi, you know, so kasama. Pero sa totoo ba, nag-i-enjoy talaga siyang tawagin siyang bruha? And that's repeated again and again. Yang ang kana advertisement repetition begins to condition you. That's the psychology advertising. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Because constant repetition will begin to condition your taste, your preferences as you watch that advertisement repeatedly. Kahit maganda yung context, di ba? Pero yung later on, hanap-hanapin mo yung product na yun sa supermarket. Kahit hindi ka interesado kasi na-condition ka na eh. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Ang sinasabi ni Jesus, careless words. Kahit yun, i-judge ng Lord on that day. So careless because hindi mo man sa galit. Pero sinabi mo, pangit yung sinabi mo. Still the same. It will still be judged by God on that day. Okay? So, because repeated things tend to condition a person. Okay, so let's continue. Damaged identities resulting from many years of colonialism. We have been made to believe we are inferior and we're just a culture of servants, workers, and laborers, right? We can amount to anything more than just workers, laborers. Okay? Negative influence of Spanish profanity. Alam mo ba, our Tagalog language is filled with a lot of Spanish profanities like P-U-T-A, P-U-T-A-N-G, mo, may Spanish term yan. Puta is Spanish. Hijo de puta, sa Tagalog, anak ng puta. Leche, that's masturbation, yung gatas na lumalabas na sperm. Leche is often used to say like F-U-A-C-K-U-Y-O-U in English. Sa Spanish, leche. Okay? Punyeta. Maldita, maldito, bruja, demonyo. All of these are Spanish terms carried on to our Filipino language. Spanish machismo, paniwala na tunay kang lalaki pag authoritative ka at walang awa, walang forgiveness, you know, brutality sa anak, sa asawa, machismo. Natural catastrophes kasi sa monsoon area tayo, monsoon zone, kaya walang katapusan ng bagyo dito, lalo na sa Luzon. Kaya early Filipinos find it powerless to fight against the forces of nature as their crops are devastated in one swoop. And doon na-develop yung fatalistic attitude. Wala kang bahala na, bathala na. Anong laban mo? Tanggapin na lang. Yun yung fatalism, bathala na. Okay? Again, that's also affected the Filipino sense of identity. Na we are powerless, we're inferior, we cannot do anything. Okay? Kaya doon nagiging justification katamaran. Okay? So, history of political and economic degradation has been so oppressed, abused, exploited by the powerful for years. You need to believe we're just pawns in a game of the rich and the powerful in the land. Okay? And broken and dysfunctional, shame-based families. Ganon ka-damage ang Filipino culture. Okay? In fact, a foreign journalist said that we are a damaged culture. Damaged identity leads to damaged character. Paano ka makakakuha ng magandang ugali? Puno ka ng bitterness in your heart. If you're full of bitterness, mahirap ka magkaroon ng magandang ugali. When you're hungry to prove your worth kasi you were cursed as a child and therefore may drive ka to prove your worth and identity sometimes at the expense of others, that creates a lot of bad character. Okay? And therefore producing a damaged culture. Okay? This is what we see. A damaged identity reinforced by the cultural influence of Western individualism. That means walang pakialam sa kapwa, kanya-kanya to. Individualism. At the top and grinding poverty at the bottom, this makes people more desperate and less concerned about other people because it's a fit to survive. Survival instinct makes them steal, dishonor people because they need what you have. Produces a deep hunger for personal worth that can become a drive that is pursued without regard to or sometimes at the expense of others. It has reinforced It has reinforced kawalan ng malasakit sa kapwa or apathy. It has reinforced the talangka mentality. You know that, right? You put talangka in a pail. When one talangka goes up, another will pull him down so he can grab, another will pull him down. You know? So dito, Filipinos tend to promote themselves by criticizing others, or pulling others down. Talangka mentality. Hindi natin madama yung halaga natin hanggat hindi natin binababa yung kapwa natin. The scrub mentality. Paghamak sa sariling bayan, walang paniwala. Walang kwenta yun, made in the Philippines. Paghamak sa sariling bayan, sa sarili rin. Pilipino? Pilipino pala yan. Paghamak sa kapwa. All of this reveal the damage in our culture. Yung ating tingin sa sarili mababa tingin natin sa lahat ng tao. Nilalait natin sarili nating bayan. Pilipino nga kayo. Nalala ko minsan ng taxi. Paliko na kami doon sa aming subdivision. Muntik na babangga yung taxi dahil may humahagibis sa taxi. Sumigaw, galit na galit yung driver. Pilipino ka nga! Gusto sabihin, Brad, Pilipino ka rin. Paghamak sa sariling bayan. Kasi nga, ganong kababa ang tingin natin sa sarili na kasi because of all these cultural, historical, political, and natural forces that made us believe we're just like that. No more. You understand that? And so what happens to us because of the damaged culture? Listen to Eric Hoffer. The capacity for getting along with our neighbor depends to a large extent on the capacity for getting along with ourselves. Now, tell me if you agree or disagree. The self-respecting individual will try to be as tolerant of his neighbor's shortcoming as he is of his own. That means, kung kaya mo tanggapin yung mga imperfection mo, kaya mo rin tanggapin yung imperfection ng iba. Okay? The remarkable thing is that we really love our neighbors as ourselves. We do unto others as we do unto ourselves. We hate others when we hate ourselves. We are tolerant of others when we tolerate ourselves. We forgive others when we forgive ourselves. We are prone to sacrifice others when we are ready to sacrifice ourselves. Do you agree or disagree? Eric Hoffer continues. Self-contempt, hatred for self. When you degrade yourself, look down on yourself, however vague, sharpens our eyes for the imperfections of others. That's what makes us very critical. We become overly critical of others when we actually hate ourselves. And we are overly critical of ourselves when we are overly critical of others. You know why? Because you're trying to find consolation in feeling that you're better. Because you look down on yourself so much. We usually strive to reveal in others the blemishes we hide in ourselves. Ikaw, ganyan. Pero ikaw, ganun ka rin. Pag nakat, galit ka. Pero ikaw, nakakat ka rin. It is not love of self, but hatred of self, which is at the root of the troubles that afflict our world. That's why Jesus later on had to change the command. From love one another, as you love your neighbor, as you love yourself, he changed it. What model? Love one another as I have loved you. Now you have the right model. Because most people hate themselves. That's the problem. That's why they cannot love their neighbor. Nathaniel Branden, I like this. Persons of high self-esteem or people who have a healthy view of themselves, a positive view of themselves, because they have not been cursed throughout their growing years, are not driven to make themselves superior to others. You know, when you have a cursed identity, when you look down yourself, you have a drive to prove yourself better than others. You want to feel superior to others. That's how you compensate for your low self-view. They do not seek to prove their value by measuring themselves against a comparative standard. Thus, you don't prove your worth by comparing yourself with others. When you have positive self-worth or self-esteem, he said their joy is being who they are, not in being better than somebody else. Look at our Filipino culture. Ang inggit mentality is all over the land. At pag nainggit ka, wala ka makita maganda doon sa taong kinaingitan mo. Lahat ng pangit na nakikita mo. Kasi natatapakan yung importansya mo na importansya niya. Right? And you cannot feel good about yourself unless somehow you should be better than him. Okay? People with a positive view of themselves, their joy is being who they are, not in being better than somebody else. Dito lang, ang inggit kahit sa mga pastor nangyayari yun. Kahit sa mga Christians, leaders, yung inggit. Kasi masyado tayong damage eh. Kaya wala tayong sariling importansya, kaya naiinggit tayo sa may importansyang tao. Kasi we don't see our own value. Tama hindi? Kaya madali tayong mainggit. Kasi mababa tingin natin sarili natin. Okay? Is this happening to our culture? Okay. Let's go on. Kaya sabi ni James Fallows, Associate Editor of the Atlantic Monthly, November 1987, wrote an essay on the Philippines entitled Damaged Culture. He described the Philippines as a society that had degenerated into a war of every man against every man. Competition. He noted that the distinctive attribute of our damaged culture was stubborn incapacity to identify with the public interest. Lahat kanya-kanya na lang. So that everyone looks out only for himself or his own kin. The result is a dichotomy between the individual and the society, a glaring absence of the sense of community. This is very true, particularly of urban centers, particularly of the cities, where there's more individualism and less community feeling. Dito medyo may community pa rito sa Davao eh. Pero yun, nag-i-erode na rin eh. Wala na rin pakailaman. Wala na yung damayan. Bahala ka sa buhay mo. Okay? Kasi nga, damage lahat. Everybody's out for his own protection, his own happiness, his own good, because how tayo dun eh. Kasi hindi na tayo na blessed, na affirm sa ating families. Kaya uhaw tayo sa importansya natin. And sometimes we proceed at the expense of others. These are all glaring evidences of the damage to our identity as a people. At saan nagsimula yan? Pamilya. Mula nagsisimula yung damage. Okay. Vindictiveness is not the same as correction. Vindictiveness is not discipline. Many times, kunyari may ginawa anak mo na mali. Sa galit mo, dahil na-offend ka sa anak mo, gumanti ka. Ang tawag doon, disiplina. Wrong. Hindi disiplina yun. Paghihiganti ang tawag doon. When you punish your child because you were offended, you were hurt, that is not discipline. That is vindictiveness. And Jesus says that's murder. Vindictive anger. That's why pag nag-react ka sa anak mo dahil na-offend ka, mapapansin mo, yung parusa mo will be more than what the offense requires. Kasi galit na yung nag-udyok eh. Nasaktan ka kasi. At yung bibig mo, lahat ng negative lalabas. Masusumpa mo talaga yung bata. That is not discipline. That is vindictiveness. And many Filipino parents cannot distinguish between vindictiveness and discipline. Sa kanila, yung vindictiveness is discipline. Tapos shock sila one day, lumalak anak, nagre-rebelde lahat sa kanila. E saan sila natuto maging vindictive? Bakit ngayong anak vindictive na rin sa parents? E sino nagturo sa kanila mapaghiganti? E di yung magulang. Intindihan nyo? So whenever you punish your child out of anger because you were offended or hurt, you are not disciplining your child. You are training your child in a lifestyle of vindictiveness. Kaya paglaki niya, wag kang magulat kung gaganti sa iyan. Tinuruan mo siyang gumanti. You understand? Okay? Vindictive anger or curse attacks, okay, discipline focuses only on the behavior. Vindictive anger or curse attacks and damages the person for his wrong behavior. Vindictiveness does not seek to correct, it seeks to damage and destroy. It can only bring dishonor. Ang gusto mo makagantik sa batamaan. That is not discipline. And in many Filipino homes, sadly to speak, they think that is discipline. No wonder, lumalaki yung mga bata, sira ang buhay, nagre-rebelde. Ano saan yung disiplina doon? Okay? Here is what I mean. The ability to distinguish behavior from identity is very important. In an attempt to correct behavior, be careful not to damage the identity of your child by attacking his person. For example, tama yung sabihin, anak, you made a mistake. Correct. Pero sabihin mo, anak, you are a mistake. That's a curse. Kasi parang sinabi mo, lahat ng ginawa sa buong buhay niya, mistake lahat, hindi naman totoo yun. You just attack the person. Identity ng bitang banatan, we say you are a mistake. It's right to say you did something bad, correct, but you are bad. Bad boy, that's a curse. Bad girl, that's a curse. Dinamay mo ng buong pagkatao niya. That's isang maling ginawa niya. You committed a failure, correct. Pero say you are a failure, that's a curse. You have a problem, correct. But you are the problem, that's a curse. Parang wala na siya nagawang matino. You inflicted pain, right. Alam mo, anak, nakasakit talaga yung ginawa mo. Tama yun. Sabi, alam mo, ikaw, sakit ng buhay namin. Curse yun. Sabihin mo, anak, you did something disappointing. That's accurate. That's behavioral. Pero say, you are a disappointment, that's a curse kasi dinamay mo na lahat. Pag sinabi mo, anak, you did not do well. Iba naman sabihin, you good for nothing. That's a curse. Sabihin mo sa anak mo, you did something really foolish, anak. That's correct. Pero sabi, you stupid, you fool. That's a curse. Now you understand now the difference between correction and cursing. Correction, you just focus on the behavior. Tingnan mo America pag nag-judge, pag nag-condemn. The American government condemns this cowardly act of the terrorists. Pero wala kayong masasabi, yung rinig, government of America condemns the terrorists. You never hear that. It's always the action, the behavior that's being condemned. That is correct. Pero Pilipino, pati tao, tinamaan na. Minurder na, pati tao. Yung bata na, murder na, na-curse. Tindihan natin? So always separate behavior from identity. You bless the identity of your child to empower him to overcome the bad behavior. You don't curse the child because the more you will disempower him from overcoming the bad behavior, tinanggalan mo na siya ng confidence sa sinumpaan mo siya eh. Paano pa makokorek yun? Wala na siyang lakas. Kasi nababa ng pagkatao niya. Ang kailangan paniwala, anak, mali yung ginawa mo, ito yung parusa. Pero alam mo, kaya mo pagtagumpayan, kaya baguhin. Naniniwala ako sa iyo. Yun ang blessing. Empower the child to overcome it. You understand that? Okay? Look at the effects of curse identities. Whenever we curse our children, our family members, this is what happens. Okay, number one, you instill rebellion because nobody wants to be degraded forever. Anyone who wants to be degraded forever? Napupuno rin tayo, di ba? Sa dating laban, lalaban ka na talaga. Yung mga bata, takot lang yan. Pero pag lumalaki-laki na yan, malalaki na rin muscle, baka magulang, biglang gumanti sa iyo yan. Kasi nobody wants to be degraded forever. Okay? Secondly, you sow rejection. Where correction equals rejection, kasi sa pag-correct, sinusumpa yung tao. Kaya dating sa bata, rejected ang buong pagkatao niya dahil sa maling ginawa niya. Imbes yung na-reject, yung maling ginawa, pati siya na-reject na rin. Kasi na-curse eh. Intindihan po natin? So, cursing a person because of wrong behavior communicates rejection of that person. Kaya kita mo, di ba tayo? You felt rejected when your parents cursed you, right? Maganda intention ng parents. Yung maling gawa mo gusto na ituwid, kaso lang nasumpa nga ng parent. Ang feeling mo, ipakatao mo, rejected na. Hindi lang na-reject yung maling ginawa, pati ikaw na-reject. Kaya ka nang sabihin ng magulang, anak, I'm not rejecting you. Hindi, sinumpa mo eh. Rejection yun eh. And that is what shame. Shame is, I feel rejected as a person simply because of something wrong I did. That is shame. You understand that? So rejection is what the child feels, or asawa feels pag sinumpa na, ikaw talaga, wala ka talagang manhid ka, bato ka, sinumpa na, dinamay na lahat. Dahil walang oras sa kanya, bato, manhid. Curses na yun. Anong feeling ng asawa? Yung buong pagkatao niya na-reject ng asawa. Amen. Remember, ang kailangan ng asawang lalaki, asawa, hindi nanay. Every man wish he can say to their wife, please, akala ko tapos na ako sa nanay ko. Please don't try to be my mom because I won't like you. Please be a wife. Encourage me. Support me. Respect me even though I'm not perfect. Because you're not perfect also, yet I'm not coming against you. Respect. Amen? Okay. Cursing communicates rejection. Another thing, when you curse a child because of something wrong is done, you're saying to that child, alam mo yung halaga mo, depende sa gawa mo. Pag mali gawa mo, wala kang halaga. Kasi kine-curse mo yung pagkatao niya eh. So you're teaching your child, your worth is based on your performance. Mali performance mo, wala kang halaga. Wala kang kwenta. Yun ang epekto pag sinusumpa mo ang pagkatao ng bata. So honor comes from correct conduct. And correct conduct means perfect conduct. Right? Functional view of human worth, that means your worth is based only on your performance, not because of who you really are. Ano effect po niyan? Ito po yung effect. Consequences of the concept and attitude of performance-based worth. Success leads to self-exaltation or pride. Failure leads to self-rejection. Kasi tinuruan yung bata, pag gumawa kang tama, tanggap ka. Pag mali kang ginawa, you're rejected. Kaya nung magiging kaya pag ako nag-succeed, talagang ano yan, yayabang talaga yan kasi performance-driven eh. Yung worth ko nasa performance ko eh, nagtagumpay ako di. Ayun, mayabang. Kasi nga, damage ang kanyang identity. Yung mayayabang, damage talaga yan sila. They gloat too much on their victory because they prove to the world, kaya ko! Kasi sabi ng nanay ko, pag hindi mo ginawa ang mabuti, palpa ka, wala kang kwenta. Ngayon, napatunay, may kwenta ako. Ay, mayabang. Kasi performance-driven eh. To prove his worth. Kasi na-curse siya eh. Kaya pag naman, dahil yung worth niya nakatali sa kanyang performance, pag bagsak ng performance, yung worth niya, bagsak din. Gusto nang pakamatay. Devastating sa kanya. That's why when you base your worth on performance, and that is what shame does to a person, when a person feels rejected because of something wrong he did, you are training that person to believe that his worth is tied to his performance period. Kaya kailangan high grades. Pag di high grade, wala kang kwentang anak. Nakakahiya ka sa pangalan natin. Patay. Rejection yun. Curse yun. Shame yun. Okay? Kaya pag nag-fail yan, papakamatay yan. Kasi his worth sa kanyang pananaw, nasa performance niya lang. Wala siyang halaga except sa kanyang performance. Yun ang tinuturo ng magulang na sinusumpa yung bata dahil sa maling ginagawa niya. Okay? It also leads to a performance drive to please or gain acceptance or belonging. Kaya itong anak talaga will work hard to gain acceptance. Understand that? And because the goal is to prove to the world, I can do it, and tendency when you try to go up there, you'll step on many people, you don't care. Whatever it takes to get there, I will do it at the expense sometimes of others. Kasi you don't care. You only care about your becoming, your finding your worth. Kasi hindi mo naramdaman yung worth mo outside of performance. Because that's what your parents taught you. Your parents did not intend to teach that to you, but because they never corrected their ways, they don't understand the negative power of cursing. That's what they are actually teaching their children. Okay? It leads to unfair comparison. Oh, kita mo? Alam mo, anak, ba't katulad ng kuya mo, ha? Anong feeling ng bata? Rejected. Pag hindi ako tulad ni kuya, hindi ako nag-perform tulad ni kuya, wala akong kwenta. I don't belong. That's what it feels. That's shame again. And you know, every time you're compared with somebody, it really hurts. You know why? Because hindi na-affirm yung meron ka na wala naman siya. Your uniqueness as a person is never affirmed. Every comparison is always unfair. You know why? Because when you're being compared, a weakness of yours is being compared to the strength of the another, but your strengths are never recognized. Your weakness is the focus, but never your strengths. That is so unfair. Never compare your children. Never. Because that communicates rejection of the person. You understand that? It creates jealousy, envy, and competition. Nagkakaroon tuloy ng rivalry among siblings because of comparisons. Okay? Also, when you are cursed because of your bad performance, causes us to look down, belittle, despise, degrade, or reject others who fail to conform to expected behavior performance standards. Kasi sanay tayo, pag di tayo na-conform sa parent standard o teacher standards, you're bad, you're rejected, you're nothing, wala kang kwenta. Kaya gano'n rin trato mo sa ibang tao. Pag hindi na-perform, ano ba yan? Baba ng tingin mo sa kapwa mo. Undergrad ka? Sorry na lang, baba mo. You tend to despise others and degrade others who don't meet your standard of expectations because that's how you were treated by your own family. Kaya wala nang halaga ang tao kundi hindi sila mag-meet na expectation, kaya binababa mo sila. Ito ang tendency natin. Kasi gano'n rin kanalakihan natin. You see the social damage created by damaged identities in the family. Parents will pressure children to perform, get high grades, excel in any and every performance, never bring dishonor to the family. Importante, yung pangalan ng pamilya, ikaw, wala kang kwenta pag hindi mo nagawa yan. As a means of gaining or proving their worth or as a means of protecting the parents' worth or reputation. Failure to perform according to parents' expectations leads to the degradation or rejection of the child. Sino ba kayo magmamahal sa batang yan? Lalo na lang hindi nakakamit ng parents' expectations, so laging binababa. Lalo hindi makaka-perform yung bata because cursing cripples a person. Blessing empowers him. May puro curse, imbes na blessing. Kaya wala, crippled. Kawawang bata. Paglaki, dysfunctional na tao yan. Problematic. The fourth thing that the cursing does, it imputes shame. The feeling of being rejected as a person and isolated from others because of something wrong I did. The feeling of wrongness of being, there's something wrong with me. Not just my action. Kasi kasusumpa, anisip mo, ako yung may problema, hindi lang yung gawa ko. Yun ang masama. Kasi that will result in self-rejection. And self-rejection is the most damaging human emotion. The most damaging. Self-rejection. Leads to the feeling of abandonment, loss of sense of belongingness, or ultimately self-rejection. That is the most damaging of all. Okay? Dysfunctional families are usually shame-based families. They have the following 7 unspoken rules that inflict shame to children. You want to know the 7 rules of a shame-based family? You might be surprised, very much like Filipino families. Always remain, mga bata, always remain in control of your behavior, feeling, and circumstances because you must always conform to expected behavior or else. Military ko minsan. No room for mistakes, no room for imperfection, no room for learning, no room for improvement. Kailangan perfect ka agad. Pag tinuruan ka magbukas ng kailangan walang magbabasag agad. Pag binabasag, yung bata, nagsisimula pa lang. Siyempre, papalpak yun. No room. You must always be in control of everything. Kailangan conform sa expected behavior or else. Sino lumaki sa ganon? Praise the Lord. Amen. Yan ang rule number 1 sa mga dysfunctional or shame-based homes. Rule number 2, always be right and do it right. Never make a mistake or never lose at anything. All behavior must always conform to expected standards. Perfectionism rule in the family and there is no room or allowance for the learning and growing process. Be good means be perfect. Do it everything perfectly the first time. Let's say, paano kung yan nag-fail? Hindi talaga sila perfect. When rules 1 and 2 fail and things get out of control, get angry and blame someone and get back at him. Others, gather yourself. Children are made responsible for parents. Alam ba, ganito? Bakit ganito? Kasi dahil sa iyo. So, yung decision ng magulang magalit, may kasalanan, anak. Ang galing. Alam mo, kung hindi ka sana nabali ng buto mo, nabali ko buto mo kasi ikaw. Patay ka, lahat sinisi sa bata. Pati desisyon ng magulang, bata may kasalanan. Aksyon ng magulang, bata may kasalanan. Ano na napupunta niyang bata? Bata lang siya may kasalanan. Sino ba sa inyong lumaki sa pamilya na parang sisigaw sa mo, bakit lagi na lang ako may kasalanan? No. Pag hindi perfect, pag hindi ka marunong mag-control, you don't do it perfectly, sisisihan ka sa lahat ng galit ng magulang. And you'll be blamed for everything. Ikaw ang salot sa pamilyang ito. Nako, sinumpa pa ng gusto. Ang problema, ang salot yung magulang actually dahil walang control sa galit, sa temper niya. Tsaka yung magiging vindictive sa anak, mapaghiganti. Ang problema, wala sa anak na sa magulang. Bata yun eh. Bata yun. You don't expect children to behave like adults. You don't expect children to behave like matured people. Kaso ko yung magulang, hindi nga mature eh. Asaan pa niya mag-mature yung anak niya? Yung magulang, hindi makontrol yung galit niya. Paano mo makontrol ang galit ng anak niya? Siya mismo walang kontrol sa sarili. Correct? That's why I always teach people in parenting. The moment you deal with your child out of influence of anger, you have lost control. The child is in control of you now. Because his action is determining what you become. He is in control, not you. Pag ikaw nadala ka na sa galit sa ginawa ng anak mo, you have lost control. Yung anak may control sa'yo. Kaya pag nakita ng bata, pag masama ng loob sa'yo, dahil sa ginagawa mo sa kanya, gagawa siya ng paraan para magalit ka at matutuwa na siya pag nagagalit ka. Kasi kayang-kaya ka niya. Yung mga batang ganyan, lalong nakaano sa magulang, puno na eh. So the more they do misbehave para magalit, tuwang-tuwa yung bata. Parang demonyo na eh. Tuwang-tuwa, nagagalit yung magulang, nagwawala yung magulang. Bakit? Kasi isang bata, kayang-kaya kita. Gusto mo ako mag-mature, napaka-immature mo. Don't even know how to handle your emotions. Ako pa? Yan ang rule number 3 sa mga dysfunctional homes. The parent is never responsible for his reactions. It's always the child. Tama ba yan? Tama ba yan? Reaction magwalang, ang bata may kasalanan? Okay, funny ha? Rule number 4, deny everyone in the family the 5 basic human experience. Number 1, bawal mag-feel pinangaralan ka, hindi ka pwedeng umiyak. Pati yung pag-iyak, pinigilan. Pinalo ka, hindi pwedeng umiyak. Hindi ka pwedeng makaramdam ng sakit. Hindi. You have no right to feel. Control all your emotion. It's wrong to feel sad, lonely, hurt, fearful, or whatever. You're not allowed to cry or show you're hurt or afraid. Patay. Bato yung pinapalaki natin. Hindi tao. Diba? Another denial. Perceive differently. Hindi ka pwedeng perceive things differently. Your parents are always right sa kanilang pananaw. Hindi ka pwedeng kumontra. Kontra ka pa. Ikaw mas tama yung bata eh. What parents say is always right, period. It's wrong to express a contrary opinion. You are not allowed to speak your own mind, period. Spanish style yan. Yan ang minana natin sa mga Kastila. Kaya magulang, biglang nagwala yung anak, taka, ba't ganun? Disiplinado yan ha? Ba't ganun? Anong disiplinado? Sinupres mong pagkatao niya, kaya hindi mo siya kilala ngayon. Lumalabas yung totoong pagkatao niya sa labas. Ayun, nasa bilangguan na. Drug addict na pala, o kaya drug pusher. Tapos ang gulat ka, disiplina ko yan. Anong disiplina? Paghihiganti yun, hindi disiplina. Hindihan po natin. Perceive differently, bawal. Bawal ka rin makaramdam ng need. Wala kang need. Mami, kailangan ko. No. Hindi mo kailangan yan. Always be self-sufficient. Never bother anyone with a need. It is selfish and wrong and ashamed to have a need or ask a favor. Ganun ba sa ating family? Bawal rin mag-believe differently. Parents tell the truth. They're always the one who knows the truth and you don't know the truth. Everyone else is to be held in suspicion, including you. Everyone else is wrong and not giving you the truth. Only the parents monopolize the truth. Mali ka sa pakaintindi mo, anak. Mali ka sa perception mo. Sa paniniwala mong yan. Kami lang ang tama. Bawal rin mag-imagine. You have no right to imagine anything beyond what your parents show you. Oo, kaya may sinabi, huwag kang mag-isip iba dyan, ha? Basta sinabi, yun lang. Okay? Deny your adventurous thoughts, your intuition or hunches, and suppress all your wild ideas. Bawal. Yan ang suppressive family. Rule number 5, always hide and maintain secrecy regarding anything wrong. Kasi papaya ang pamilya natin, papaya ang pangalan natin. Nagnakaw ka, huwag ka magre-report sa police. Hindi pwede, masisira pangalan natin. At yung magulang, huwag ka magsusumbong sa police. Yun. Tinuruan ang anak ng deception, panuloko, or anything that can bring shame or dishonor to your parents or the family name. Bawal. Di pa alam. So para patuloy tayo sa mali. Never acknowledge a mistake or make yourself vulnerable to anyone. Never bring shame to yourself even when you're wrong or when you've done something. Never admit it. You're always right. Don't trust anyone. People and relationships are erratic and untrustworthy. Trust only yourself. Okay, sino sa inyo lumaki sa ganitong klaseng family? Some of these points, right? Kaya pala masyado tayong insecure. Damage tayo eh. Shame thus causes us to focus on preserving or protecting our image before people. I call that image management. Kaya concerned tayo lagi kung ano sinasabi ng tao. Ako, yung buong buhay natin ano sinasabi ng tao sa akin. Kawawa ka naman. Hindi ka na mabuhay na hindi iniisip yung iniisip ng tao. Okay? Please people rather than focus on doing what is right to please God. You can never really obey God if you're really concerned about your image. Because obeying God sometimes means doing things that people don't like. Because it doesn't fit their expectations. So kung mas concerned ka sa image mo, hindi ka talaga susunod sa Diyos. Kasi yung tinuro sa'yo, mahalaga sa image mo. It leads to compromise, people-pleasing, and dishonesty, avoidance of exposure, hindi ka aamin, kahit totoo mo alam mo totoo, resort to denial, concealment, or self-justification. Shame keeps people from upholding integrity in their lives. They cannot be completely honest because they're more concerned about protecting themselves rather than obeying God. Okay? Here are the effects and manifestations of deep shame or dishonor. If you said these words, then you are suffering from a damaged identity. You're suffering from shame. I don't feel I'm worth or I belong because of what I've done. Ano lang ginawa, hindi ka na makamukha sa tao dahil sa maling ginawa mo. Parang kailangan perfecto ka. Sabi nyo na ba yan? Ito pa, I'm never good enough to be accepted or loved because I never measure up to expectations. I'm so bad. Here, being good means being perfect. Result leads to self-degradation. Ito effects ng shame. Third, something's really wrong with me because I could never please people. In spite of all my life, tulad ng magulang ko, lagi na lang ako mali, wala nang gawang tama. And I hate myself for it. I wish I was not who I am. I wish I was never born. Have you said that once in your life? You're suffering from the negative effects of shame. Or you have said, I don't deserve to be loved anyway. I only deserve to be rejected, hated, condemned, and punished. Kasi yan man kinalakihan ko. Lagi na ako rejected, hated, condemned, and punished. Because I'm a bad person. I'm not worth loving. Leads to self-condemnation and self-punishment. How you love to punish yourself. By not giving yourself anything good. That's a negative effect of shame. Another one. I live to keep pleasing people, never myself, so I can gain acceptance and approval. I'll do anything, even compromise what I believe, lie, or even sacrifice everything I value to feel I belong and that I'm good in their eyes. Leads to abuse by others and to self-abuse. Kaya madali ka maabuso ng ibang tao kasi gagawin mo lahat ng gusto nila to gain approval. And you also find yourself abusing yourself. Why? Because all just to get approval. I'll do anything. Because nobody made you feel your worth. You've been rejected. I'm never good enough in their eyes anyway. I'll just do everything that they hate to show them that I'm really everything they think of me. That I finally accepted that I'm really a bad person, and so I'll show them and get back at them. Shame leads to rebellion. Naisip nyo na ba yan before? Gawin ko na lang lahat yung ayaw nila. Anyway, masama naman talaga ako. Kahit anong gawin ko, masama ako eh. Mapapakasama na lang ako. Naisip nyo ba yun? Again, that's one effect of deep shame. We're not done. I can never let people know who I really am because they may not like me, because in my family, nobody likes me. I just keep putting up a face before people. I can't be honest. I can't be myself. I just have to live a lie so I can be accepted and feel that I belong. Leads to loneliness. You may have a barkada, but you're lonely because nobody knows you for who you are because you're scared to show them who you are. If may friends ka, lonely ka. And you tend to withdraw and you tend to be isolated. Again, effects of deep shame. Yes, okay? So, have you thought and felt at least like one of those? How many of you could say, I felt like one of those? Can you raise your hands? Before. Merong pwede ring even now. That is a culture of cursed identities. Okay? Now look at the effects generationally of cursed identities. In the late 1880s, Benjamin B. Warfield, a professor at Princeton University, traced the known descendants of Jonathan Edwards. You know who Jonathan Edwards is? He was the first president of Princeton and one of the key preachers, if not the key preacher, in the religious revival in America known as the Great Awakening during the 18th century. Jonathan Edwards was known as a revivalist. Jonathan Edwards had sons that he loved so much. He taught them the ways of the Lord since childhood. And he always blessed them. And he blessed yung mga anak niya. Richard Dugdale, a sociologist, was inspired by Benjamin Warfield's research. He was a contemporary of Warfield's, and he decided to trace another subject, the known descendants of another subject, whose name was Max Jukes. Jukes was a Dutch immigrant that arrived in New York in the early 1700s. He was an atheist and an alcoholic who couldn't hold a job. He married a prostitute. And because ganun po siya, damage po yung taong to, wala siyang ganda kundi sumpain yung mga anak niya araw-araw. Lasing, hindi makatagal sa drop, pag-usap tayo, puno ng galit, kaya anak niya laging nabubugbog, sinusumpa yung mga anak niya. Baliktad, ano? Isa, binibless. Tinuturuan ng daan ng Diyos. Isa, sinusumpa at maling example. So, ano naging effects nila sa kanilang descendants? You want to see the results of the research? We start with Max Jukes. 903 descendants were traced. 310 became delinquents who never finished school and died in poverty. 145 became confirmed drunkards. 190 became public prostitutes. 285 the sexually transmitted diseases. 150 spent an average of 13 years in prison, including 7 convicted murderers. May epekto ang sumpa ng tatay sa mga anak. Tsaka yung maling example. Meron. You want to know the effects of Jonathan Edwards on his descendants? A father taught his children the way of the Lord and blessed them. Okay? Let's take a look at Jonathan Edwards. Results of the study, Jonathan Edwards, Benjamin Warfield traced 1,394 descendants. Wow. 13 became college presidents, 65 college professors, 30 judges, 100 lawyers, 60 physicians, 75 Army and Navy officers, 100 pastors, 60 prominent authors in America, 3 United States senators, 80 public servants in other capacities, including governors and ministers to foreign countries, and 1 vice president of the United States of America, whose name was Aaron Burr. And a good example of a father and his blessing his children changed the future of his descendants. Yes, the big question now is, how about your future generations?